Hey y'all, it's Gemini Jazz with House of Chiron, and we are going to discuss some psychology today, right? Um, the title of this video is Nothing Loves Excuses More Than Mercury Retrograde in Scorpio, right? So, since we are in currently a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, this is forcing us to reevaluate, revisit, um, reassess, and review all of those Scorpio energies, those eighth house things. And just to give a little background for those who are not astrology inclined, um, the eighth house rules transformations, um, kind of like the death of things, you know, and also rules literal death, but as well as other people's money, other resources that you obtain through other people, um, intimate relationships, those deep partnerships like marriage and whatnot. Um, and so we are being forced to review those things from a mercurial standpoint because Mercury rules the nervous system. It rules the mind, right? How you think, how you communicate. So we are being forced to review and reassess a lot of things regarding our finances, how we obtain our money, our partnerships, what we value within those partnerships, what we want, how we communicate within these partnerships. And we're doing it on a very deep Scorpio level. So we're like diving into the abyss of our brains, diving into the darkness and the depths of how we view these things and how we communicate and how we assess, along with the other Mercury retrograde issues that we have, where exes possibly come back, where we have issues with technology and the internet and all that, because like I said, Mercury rules all forms of communication. So with that being said, the reason why I titled this Nothing Loves Excuses More Than Mercury Retrograde in Scorpio is because that's the energy we have been dealing with for the past almost 3 weeks. We have about 5 days left of Mercury retrograde in Scorpio before it stations to go direct. And with that, it's like we are, you will find it easy to make excuses as to why these things have been consistent in your life. Why these certain challenges that you have been facing for so long have been there. You will start trying to determine these excuses and find these excuses. Anyway, I had to go close my window because it was like planes and Mercury retrograde. Okay, we're gonna blame everything on Mercury retrograde. Anyway, so I'm back. So you would start finding all these excuses as to why these things have been consistent in your life instead of looking directly at yourself, right? And so how does this tie into psychology, right? Well, let's get into it. So we have there's something called learned helplessness, right? So just to give a little background on what learned helplessness is, it's basically, it occurs when an individual is repeatedly placed in an aversive situation or experience this type of stimuli that a person cannot escape, right? So it's like having your back up against the wall. It's that kind of energy. And over time, the person then kind of take on this energy or this mindset that they have no control over their life. They have no control over their circumstances. And they just give up and they just lay down and they take whatever life throws at them without fighting back, right? And so it's kind of like you accept your fate in a sense. And this learned helplessness theory was developed by two psychologists, Seligman and Stephen. Can't remember his last name because I can never pronounce it. Meyer, M-A-I-E-R. That's all I know. So these two psychologists, they accidentally stumbled upon this theory. They were studying classical conditioning, and classical conditioning basically is just being conditioned, having certain stimuli happen to you over and over and over until your brain basically is conditioned to respond to certain things in a certain way based on that being, introduced to you, right? So they accidentally stumbled upon this by studying dogs. So they placed these dogs. They had it was 3 test runs. So they placed these dogs in a box. The box had this electromagnetic kind of shock thing on the bottom of it, and this was back in 1965. And they would shock the dogs, right? The first run, they would shock the dogs. Didn't hurt them, didn't kill them like that, just, kind of stung. But they shocked the dogs, and over time, the dogs just laid down. They didn't try to escape or anything. They just laid down. So the second run, they introduced a wall, right? A small wall that was short within the box. They put the wall there. They placed the dog on one side of the box, and they introduced the little shock, and the dog just laid down. The dog didn't try and jump over the little fence to get away from the shock, just laid down. So the third time, they actually introduced new dogs that never received the shock ever. They put them in there. They introduced the shock, and the dogs jumped over the fence to get away from the shock. So this basically comes up to this brings us to the point of saying that if you have been introduced over and over and over with this energy that, in this situation, this is always going to be the turnout. And so I just give up. I just quit. I accept my fate. It's the inevitable. It's the entropy. It's the black hole, whatever. So that also correlates with humans and how we see certain things. I'm also guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. And it's nothing necessarily to be ashamed of. It's just the way the brain works. It's the way we as humans also respond, right? So what does this contribute to? This contributes to feeling helpless, right? Low self-esteem, a lack of motivation, or a lack of effort. It also can contribute to not wanting to ask for help when you need help, when you know for a fact that you need help, and you just feel like, I'm just not going to ask for help. And surprisingly, this also contributes to procrastination. Everybody says, like, not everybody, but a lot of people say, oh, if I wait till the last minute. I'm so guilty of this. I wait till the last minute. My best work comes out when I'm under pressure. Procrastination. So that's just not wanting to take the initiative or taking responsibility or control of our own lives and our own habits and the things that we do. It's just kind of laying down, taking whatever is given to us without feeling that we are powerful, without knowing that we are God, right? God lives within all of us, and not knowing that we can create and manifest things with the power of ourselves, because life has dealt us lemons and we just refuse to make lemonade. We're just going to accept that it's a lemon kind of thing. And so with that being said, I said Mercury retrograde, these are the excuses. This is the victimization that we put ourselves in. Now we're victims. Now we're just going to take whatever is given to us. Woe is me. Everybody needs to feel sorry for me kind of thing. And just, no. It's, there's ways to overcome this. From a psychological standpoint, there is cognitive behavioral therapy. And basically what that is, you just overcome these things that you have been conditioned to believe by facing your fears. We always say this, it doesn't have to be a medical thing. Overcome anything by facing your fears. On the other side of fear is your blessing. On the other side of fear is the life that you desire. You just have to literally go through fearing it, face it head on. Cognitive behavioral therapy is basically that. So it's basically the conditioned thoughts and the behaviors and all those patterns that we have taken as norms. It's identifying them and replacing them with something optimistic, with replacing them with another outcome, or even challenging your thoughts, right? So asking yourself those questions: is this true? Is this real? Is this always going to be the outcome? And when you change the way you think, you change the way you speak. When you change the way you speak, you change the way you show up in the world, right? Because what you think becomes what you say becomes what you do ultimately becomes your life. So once you change the way you think, once you change the way that you process and analyze and certain stimuli, you then no longer project those negative behaviors that come there into your life. So change the way you think, challenge it. Your life and your actions will follow. So that's why I say this is the perfect season with Mercury being in retrograde. Instead of laying down, taking the shock that Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is giving us, jump the fence. And there's another way out. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you all. And if you need any birth chart readings, if you want some cards pulled, if you just want to talk to somebody about whatever it is that you're experiencing, you know who to call. So y'all have a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful weekend. Talk to you later. Bye.